Commissioner, can we do one item off my report before we go to planning and zoning? Just one. It's because we're out for it. Item number one on my report, board action to
Hold on.
approve.
Hold on.
Hold on, let us get over there to
Let
it.
him- You gotta come forward.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Board action to approve the assignment of Federal Rich Incorporated agreements to Dewberry Engineers Incorporated. A copy of the assignment letter listing the agreements and projects attached to your packet. Attorney Schuler has a copy of the agreement. And you see someone you probably haven't seen in these halls for quite some time.
Absolutely.
At the microphone. He's here to discuss it with the board. Is there
Yes,
any
sir.
questions?
Mr. Chairman,
You have any questions?
I do. Mr. Schuler, have you looked at the document?
Yes, ma'am, I reviewed the original submission. I recommended some changes that be made. They incorporated those changes, so that document comes to you with a recommendation of approval.
Okay, and we're going on the agreement that we got between Preble Rich Incorporated back in 1998,
I believe that's the effective date. Yes, ma'am.
and it is all right to do this?
Yes, ma'am, I do believe so.
Okay. I make a motion that we do this.
Second.
Have a motion second on the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
See all that sweat.
You don't even gonna let me talk, huh?
No,
No,
we're just glad you graced our presence.
I got some people been sitting there all morning.
Thank you.
All right, planning and zoning.
Okay, Commissioners,
Oh, planning and zoning.
I'm sorry, the Planning and Zoning meeting, which was held Tuesday, August 9th, there were two items. The first one was recommended approval from the Planning and Zoning Commission. It was a unanimous recommendation. The consideration of a request to construct a single-family private dock at 211 Harbor Circle in Alligator Point. State and federal permits are being applied for and meets local requirements. The dock walkway will be 20 by 4 with a 10 by 20 terminal platform. It was submitted by Mr. David Keith from Docks for Less. He's the agent for Charles and Christine Dotson. It was, there was a contingent upon receiving, of course, DEP and the Corps permits.
Okay, let me ask a question. This dock, if you're looking at the picture.
Yes, ma'am.
You've got the picture down there on Harbor Circle of all the docks, right? You got some of them short, some of them longer. This dock is not gonna be any longer than that last dock.
Last dock, no, I think we did
Okay.
discuss that at the meeting.
Okay. All
That's where
right,
the mark's at.
yeah.
Okay.
If nobody has a problem with it, I'm gonna go ahead and offer a motion to approve, contingent upon receiving the DEP and Corps permit.
Okay.
Have a motion second on the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
And the second item was a rezoning and land use change request. This item was not recommended for approval by a 3-2 vote from Planning and Zoning, 3 against, 2 for. It was consideration of a request to rezone bungalows by the Gulf located at 3186 US Highway 98, include units A1 to 4, B1 to 4, C1 to 4, D1 to 4, E1 to 4, F1 to 10, G1 to 6, and M1. Those, of course, are at St. James Island Park here in the county. The request is from a C2 commercial business to R5 multifamily and a land use change from commercial to residential. They were submitted by Mr. Jeremy Anderson. He's the agent for the association. Some history, Mr. Pierce is here to give you some history, and I think Mr. Anderson is out to discuss this with the board also.
Well, I'll be brief. This has been an ongoing, well, I hate to use the word dispute, but an ongoing problem for this structure since it was built. It was built when the boom was going on. I forget the date on it was built. We issued permits for the construction of these things. They were mostly never sold off by the original developer. Maybe 1 or 2 units were sold off. It went into foreclosure. A bank bought it, and then a holding company out of Texas bought it from the bank, and then they would then subsequently resold then to the individual investors, which we have in this room here today. This proposal to rezone is a recommendation or a suggestion from the county staff. Is trying to find a resolution for the issue. The issue is that the current zoning as commercial does not allow for residential uses, and these individuals, and I'll let them say it better than I can, bought this not realizing that that restriction was in there, and they're trying to find some resolution for their investment. So Mark Harrington, who is the county planner now, looked at options, and he went to the P&Z and said, well, this is an option to resolve the use issue. There may generate other things. Mr. Schuh and I just talked briefly this morning. He asked me about the high hazard, and the high hazard zone is something that I had not thought about, and so I don't have an answer for that, if that's an unresolvable problem. The hazard zone is a zone that we are adopting in our comp plan to reduce density and development on the hurricane-prone areas, and south side of 98 was defined as high hazard, as well as all of St. George Island. So that's an issue there I don't have an immediate answer for, someone else might. But anyway, this is a recommendation we came up with. This is not necessarily what the applicants wanted, and I'll let the applicants talk about it, but this was a proposal that we came up with, trying to resolve this outstanding conflict between the current zoning and the expected uses, I'll put it that way, of the current owners.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Spears.
Mr. Anderson first.
Your name? Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, let me address the board first before we move forward. My recommendation to the board would be to table this matter as it's been presented, allow myself to look at the legal implications. I do have a substantial concern about litigation to the risk and creating this non-conforming use. My concerns specifically relate to the coastal high hazard area. I'm not sure how we can get around your comp plan restriction that prohibits the direction of high-intensity residential use into the coastal high hazard area, though I'm willing to explore that. There are also issues under the Burt-Harris Act where if you take government action to create this non-conforming use, there's a potential litigation risk that I want to look at to explore potential risk to the county, because right now, this is a C2 commercial hotel. The county did not create this problem. We recognize that when the bank sold these off, even though I had been telling the bank consistently before they sold these units, that's a C2 commercial hotel, 0 residential uses are allowed. Mr. Anderson maybe can address what the bank told his clients. I have no idea what the bank told his clients, but the bank knew that was a C2 commercial hotel. That's my personal belief based on information given to me, that the bank, when they bought this foreclosure sale, did not do their due diligence. They may well have thought that they were, getting a really better than you could believe it deal on a 36 or 37 unit residential condominium, but when that bank, shortly after they bought the foreclosure sale, contacted your county planning staff, they were told immediately that this was not a residential unit. This was a C2 commercial hotel. And that was reinforced in subsequent communications between myself and their real estate agent, myself and the attorney for I thought it was the bank. I didn't know if the trust holding company was
Well,
involved.
I could be wrong.
As far as I know, it was a Liberty Bank in Texas. So,
Liberty
and this
Bank.
all occurred sometime around the 2013, 2014 timeframe, whenever the bank that bought the foreclosure sale was then reselling these units. So I do have substantial concerns about the litigation risk to the county if you take governmental action to create this non-conforming use, because under the Burt-Harris Act, I don't remember the exact statutory language off the top of my head, but essentially if we take governmental action that adversely and substantially impacts their reasonably based investment expectations, and there's some other statutory language in Burt-Harris, then we could become responsible for that. And under the proposal on the table now, if that unit is destroyed by more than 50%, they can't rebuild. Under my rough calculations, they're going to lose at least 30 of the 36 or 37 units they have out there. That causes me a great deal of concern. I also have some concerns about potential regulatory takings issues that have not been adequately explored at this point. So my recommendation would be, of course, listen to what everybody has to say, but my recommendation is let's table this matter at this time, not schedule a public hearing, allow me to consult both with Mr. Anderson and with David Theriak in Tallahassee. Y'all are familiar with Mr. Theriak. He's acted as outside counsel for you before. And let's see if we can come up for a proposal that helps these people if we can, but doesn't take what is now their private problem and turn it into a public risk. Because I don't think at this point you have enough information to make a decision whether to set a public hearing right now or not. Because I can't really give you all the risk information because I've not really looked at it fully.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
This is a hard situation right here, because right here, you're looking at a denial. And if this board takes any action to give you a denial, that's it. Can we listen to comments?
Absolutely.
Okay. I want to tell a little history about how this all started and everything.
Yes,
This started a long time ago, back in 2005. And the new rules was fixing to be changed in that July 1, with the federal, with the state government through legislation. So the prior owners came to us and asked us if we would support something like this. This is the only one in this zoning ever in this county. And through a lot of work and everything, we did it right up underneath the benchmark for the date. Now, since then, because of the land boom and the land, bust and everything else, different ones have handled it. There was a gentleman about 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, that called me from Tallahassee, and I'm gonna tell you his name, but he was a gentleman that was looking at it to buy it. And I said, sir, and he said, Miss Sanders, he said, I understand you're the commissioner of that area. I said, yes, sir. And he said, I understand that you know what, how this got to be what it was. I said, yes, sir. I said, it came from a person requesting it, a group of folks from Tallahassee requesting it, some from local too. And we did this to try to appease everybody, to try to help people out. Our job up here is to try to help people out. And I said, and he said, well, is it true that I don't have no claim on the residence part of it? I said, absolutely, that's what it's called, condo hotel, hotel condo, whatever you want to call it. He said, well, he said, I was seriously going to put a bid on it. Liberty Bank's got it. He said, and I was seriously going to put a bid on it. He said, but now that you told me that I can't be assured that I'm going to be the only one sleeping in my bed, and my father-in-law don't like to sleep in nobody else's bed but his, he said, I'm going to beg off of it. I said, you're not going to put a bid in? He says, no, sir. He said, Miss Sanders, I want to thank you for being honest with me. I said, I ain't going to lie to you. That's just a fact of it. And so this is where it's transpired. Now, is everybody honest like I am? No. Oh, y'all wouldn't be sitting here, honey. That's right. But our job is to help you. Can we do this? Don't know. But I know that man sitting over there, that's an attorney. And I know when he has an order from this commissioner or any of the other 4 commissioners or as a board, he's going to come in there and do his level best to help anybody he can too, because that's his job too. That's how he makes his money. That's how he helps people. So, see, the thing about it is y'all may get aggravated with what we try to do, but be patient. Be patient, because we're going to try to help you. Now, some people think that we don't owe it to the people, that you all made a bad investment. Y'all eat it. I'm not like that. I'm here to help you. So I think you got an agreement here that we all gonna try to help you. But we're gonna listen to this. What are you, an attorney?
I'm an attorney, yes,
Why
ma'am.
y'all got him up there? Y'all get up here and talk to us yourself. Yeah, hold on. But I mean, there ain't no reason to have no attorney up here to talk to Franklin County Commissioners. We're not in Leon County. We don't understand that language. We understand a one-on-one, so.
Thank you. I really appreciate your time and giving us the opportunity to come
Can you
up
put
and
your
speak to you.
microphone closer?
Yes, ma'am.
Pull it down. There you go.
Is that better? Oh, gracious. Hello. I'm getting up close and personal with the microphone. My name is Kelly Sowell, and I'm one of the many bungalows owners that's here today. And let me first please start with thanking you all so much for having that care and concern for us. This has been very hard for all of us because it is personal to us too. This was our investment. We came into and thinking that we were getting this little slice of paradise, so we didn't expect this long 2-year headache to come along with that ride. If you don't mind, just bear with me for a minute if I can just give a little bit of background on how we got here. I'll be quick, I promise. Many of us have similar stories of how we came about buying a unit at the bungalows. Some heard the radio ads for this perfect weekend getaway spot. Others of us were simply on a Sunday afternoon drive when we stopped in curiosity as we saw the Models Open signs. And that's what my husband and I did, literally a Sunday afternoon drive. The moment we walked in the door, though, we were sold. The view alone was enough that we knew this is where we had to be. Within an hour, we found ourselves signing a contract. Now that's where I'm going to get the bug eyes from y'all. An hour? You didn't plan on this? You were on a Sunday drive? Did you read everything that they gave you? We did read everything that they gave us, and they did tell us it was commercially zoned. But what they told us was that only stipulation with that was, even though it says residential prohibited, that strictly meant that we couldn't claim homestead. Okay, well that's not an issue for us. We have a home in Tallahassee. We're claiming homestead on that. So this would not be an issue. We just wanted this lovely weekend spot to get away to. So let's fast forward then to the planning and zoning meeting that we just had last week and some of the concerns that came up there. The first one that came up was buyer beware, and you all already mentioned it. As buyers, we should have read deeper. We should have asked the questions, made the phone call to Commissioner Sanders. She would have told us flat out. Fair enough, except for one thing. This isn't just one person that misunderstood this. This was all these people you see here. And we're intelligent people. We're financial managers. We're attorneys. We're engineers. We're judges. You know, we're not coming in dumb to these things. We like to think we're financially sound people when we go in and make an investment. We're starting to question that a little bit now. The other issue that came up was, well, if you feel wrong, then take legal action against Liberty Bank. Well, to what end? That still doesn't get us anywhere. That's going to get us a whole lot more attorney's fees. No offense, Jeremy. But it's still not going to get us anywhere. It's not going to get us to where we want to stay in your county and enjoy what we have found here. So the issue that Mr. Schuler brought up today, rezoning to R5, will be non-compliant, and he's right. So if our building is destroyed 50% or more, we can't rebuild that as it is. Well, we can't do that now. If our building was destroyed today, we can't rebuild as it is built now under C2. We're not compliant as we are currently under C2. We don't meet the parking requirements that are currently in that zone, so we couldn't rebuild. We know this. We've all signed the forms. I don't know if you've all seen them. We're aware of what we're up against. We're in between a rock and a hard place, and we're really just trying to find a way that we can stay and enjoy our investment. So in addition, the structure as it was finished and completed as a condotel, it could not be run as a condotel. The units have individual utilities, individual water bills, individual electric bills for each unit, and the manager's unit was sold as a unit, and actually sold as a unit, what would be a manager's office to be able to run that place. So finally, we would ask that you consider the benefits of having owners periodically staying at their units. As owners, we have a stake in the appearance and upkeep of the building. It is our investment. If it were purely rentals and transients, you would find how quickly it would be dilapidated and that the environment surrounding would not be maintained. As owners, we not only care about the facility, we deeply care for the water and wildlife surrounding us. We ensure that shoreline is protected, that it's preserved, and that it's maintained. Any of the trash that washes ashore, we're picking that up. We're making sure that we're helping the environment that we're around. We also care about the surrounding community, as is reflected by the annual school supply drive that we've done. We are in the midst of our 3rd annual school supply drive for Franklin County Schools. We want to give back to this community that we have so fallen in love with. And we also did a care gift bag drive for the folks at the St. James Rehabilitation Center at Christmas time last year. We plan to make that an annual event as well. We shop in your stores. We eat in your restaurants. We are a positive impact on your community. We just want to enjoy the beauty that is here, and we hope you will strongly consider supporting us on this issue. Thank you for your time. Questions?
Y'all got any questions for her? Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name's Greg Preble, and I need to mention before I start that I have a contract with the county to provide engineering services on the lawsuit that you have against the barge company that knocked down part of the pier. The main reason I'm here today is I'm one of the owners of the condominium, and the point I'd like to make is that I'm not sure it was the intent of the county commission at the time they approved this project to deny us as the owners the right to use our units for even one day of the year. There's nothing in the record that I can find that substantiates that position. I've looked at minutes of meetings, permits, and so forth, and I can't find any documentation that would support that. I talked to former county commissioners who were on the board at the time this project was approved, and they said they didn't remember it that way. I talked to a local businessman who was a partner in this deal, and he said, no, that wasn't the case at all. There was no specific stipulation on the amount of time the owners could spend in their units. There was just a condition that they couldn't reside there. In other words, they couldn't live there. They had to have a separate home to go to somewhere else. And best I can tell, that's all that's in the record. You know, 37 families bought these units. That meant title companies did title searches. There was lawyers involved. As Kelly just mentioned, most of us are experienced at purchasing real estate. And you want to say it was a case of buyer beware? Well, I say it was a case of buyer got blindsided because there was nothing in the record that somebody would find that would give you a clue that the county's position was that we couldn't even spend one single day in our unit. I think that that's something that's come up since the time that the project was approved. And frankly, I think it's too late for that. You can't wait until 37 people, 37 families have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars each to buy a unit and then put this kind of restriction on the use. The net effect of this ordinance or this approach is it will destroy the value of these units. I'll use myself as an example. It costs me $23,000 a year to own my unit. If I'm forced to rent it, there's no way I can make enough money renting it to even cover that nut. So, and if I can't use it, all I can do is drive by and look at it, and I have to stroke a check for that thing every month from now on. It's worthless to me, and it's worthless to anybody else who might want to buy it. I can't keep that up indefinitely. So eventually, this will create enormous hardship, financial hardship for the owners, but it'll also hurt the county because that loss of value, that diminishment of value is going to reduce your tax base by millions of dollars. So you're going to be hurting yourself as well as us. It's a lose-lose proposition. Now, some of you have come to this conclusion already. So you asked your staff to come up with a recommendation, a fix for this. And your own staff is recommending to you that you rezone this to R5 or 4, whatever it is. We didn't ask for that. That was your staff's recommendation. All we're asking, for your sake and ours, is that you at least let us have a public hearing on this so we can flesh it out. And we'd like to do it sooner than later. We've been talking about this and beating this around the bush for a year and a half. I'm getting tired, honestly. And I've spent an enormous amount of time and money on this, and I'm ready to see a resolution. So please, pretty please, would you at least let us have a public hearing on this? Thank you.
You ain't got to beg, partner.
Huh?
You don't have to beg.
Commissioner, I think at some point, and I can't tell you what Mr. Theriak's schedule is, but I certainly understand from talking to the board members and listening to you in the hearing, and this is not a new issue for us as a county. I mean, it's been brought up. I've had a bunch of meetings with Mr. Preble and Ms. Sowell, and there's some other folks I've had meetings with. I mean, we've talked about this, and I understand there's a desire of the board to try and find an exit strategy for these good people. And I will get with Mr. Theriak and we'll talk with him. I will also have meetings with, and include Mr. Anderson in that, so he's sort of, well, maybe not in every meeting, but he'll be there long enough to know how this thing's being built and what the thought process of. There's not going to be any, it'll be a completely open and transparent process as it has been throughout. I did want to address one issue though. There's been a statement that there was nothing in the record that there was no residential uses allowed on this property. I myself have personally gone through and read the minutes and listened to hours of audio tapes. I know Mr. Anderson has because he made the record request, and we provided all that same information to him. The attorney for Liberty Bank, when he and I were having our communications about what the authorized and allowed uses, the approved uses on this property were, he went through those same minutes and audio tapes. No one can find even one request for the allowance of the residential use and occupation of this property. If you look, and that was from the original developer to the county, no one ever asked, can the unit owner stay here for 30 days or 20 days or 5 days or 100 days? I mean, that request was never made to the county commission. The county commission never addressed that issue of residential use and occupation by the owners. The request was never made, therefore the county never answered it, and that's why there's nothing affirmative in the record one way or the other. The C2 zoning on the property was, if they wanted to have some residential uses, there'd have to have been a rezoning of the property to some other resident or some other category. The C2 zoning for this small hotel very clearly says that no residential use is allowed. And I understand from the discussions I've had with some of the owners that they're trying to nuance this argument that owner occupation is not the same thing as residential use. And we can have those discussions. But the point being, I don't think that scheduling a public hearing at this time is prudent because I can't tell you what Mr. Theriak's schedule is. I can't tell you when I can return back to you with any informed information. I would certainly hate to schedule something only to return back and go, staff's not ready. But I will tell you that I understand the direction from the board is to try and find a solution, if one is available, to these good people and report that back to the board. And then at that time, depending on what that report is, you can make a decision on whether to move forward with a public hearing. But my recommendation today would be to table.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman.
well,
I think if we tell you to move forward and get them a solution, I want it done within a month.
With all due respect, ma'am, you did at the last meeting tell them to move forward and get us a resolution, and that's why Mr. Schuler was so kind to meet with us, with myself and Greg
Oh, no,
Preble.
that was 2 or 3 months ago when I
All
told
right, I'm
them to do
sorry.
that.
I'm sorry. The timeline's wrong.
I didn't tell them that last month. That was 2 or 3 months ago.
I'm sorry.
Try to
See,
find a solution
I
for
didn't,
y'all.
yeah,
Mr.
I didn't
Schuler
know
was
this was
there.
coming for planning and zoning because this would not be the way I
Yes.
handle it. But what I'm saying is, if we do that, if we direct you, Mr. Schuler, to move ahead and go forward, we expect you to do it expeditiously
Yes, ma'am.
and everything, because,
Well, me too, because I can look out there and tell them, somebody told me that I'd be,
Mr.
my
Chairman,
property.
can I ask a question, make a comment? I am very sympathetic to the situation that you find yourselves in, and I hope we can reach a solution. What I don't understand, and maybe the attorney can explain, what is the process that you're suggesting, and how do we move forward on that?
Well, at this point, frankly, I'm not sure that there's a way to get around the hurdle of your comp plan prohibition of not directing high-intensity residential uses into the coastal high-hazard area. I'm not saying there's not one. This is just an issue that I was looking at the end of last week and a little bit yesterday. It's Objective 13 in the comp plan that was adopted in 2005. If we can get around that prohibition, then what I would recommend would be to go to the court with this particular, and I've had this discussion with them, with some of the owner representatives that were in the meeting, take this non-conforming use to the court, and if the court issues a declaration that gives the county a green light on the Burt Harris potential claims, the regulatory taking claims, and these waivers of liability that I understand have been prepared, if a court signs off on it, then I will feel more comfortable coming back to this board with a recommendation for approval. But with just an R5, let's create a non-conforming use, and here are our waivers of liability. I don't think those waivers are going to be enforceable in the future, and I think it subjects this county potentially to a great deal of litigation risk.